Good evening, everybody. First order of business is a public hearing. We're going to hold a public hearing this evening, Tuesday, January 21st, 2020 at 7 o'clock. The purpose of this hearing is to hear oral, written, or views from citizens concerning community development and housing needs as required by the Housing and Community Development Act of 1974 as amended. Federal guidelines require that maximum priority be given to activities which primarily benefit low or moderate income families or which aid in the prevention or elimination of slums or blight. So I'd like to open the public hearing. It is 7 o'clock. Is there anybody who wishes to address this board? Dory, right?
That's right.
Okay, from Care House.
May I share some information?
Yes, please.
with you?
Thank you. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Dory Vasquez-Nolan, and I am the Executive Director of Care House, the Macomb County Child Advocacy Center. Our main office is located in Mount Clemens, and we also now have a satellite office operating in Warren. Our services are focused on child victims of sexual abuse, physical abuse, or children that may have been a witness to a violent act, as well as their non-offending family members. Our goal is to minimize the trauma that is typically associated with child abuse investigations and to help the family through the investigation, prosecution, and begin the healing process. Care House is one of 34 children's advocacy centers accredited by the National Children's Alliance. We're now serving over 50 counties in the state of Michigan and one of almost 900 in the United States. We collaborate with all law enforcement jurisdictions in Macomb County, as well as the FBI, Homeland Security, and Immigration and Customs Enforcement, Children's Protective Services, the Macomb County Prosecutor's Office, and medical and mental health professionals. I did share with you some updated statistics that on Village of Romeo families that we served in the past year, but I did also want to share with you a story about Abby. Abby was 4 years old, and her mom, Renee, was raising Abby alone and struggling financially. Finding affordable housing was very hard for them, and Abby's mother was afraid they might become homeless. One day, they ran into Steve, an old family friend, who had a large house and invited them to move in with him. He had plenty of space, so they moved in, and things really seemed to be looking up for Abby and Renee. Renee got a new job as a waitress and even signed up for some online college courses. She and Abby also started attending services at the church where Steve was a deacon. On nights when Renee had to work, Steve was always available and happy to keep Abby. One night, Renee's computer died, so she went to use Steve's computer to complete her assignment. There she discovered photos and videos on his computer that showed that Steve had been going into Abby's room at night. There were photos of Abby without her PJs on, both asleep and awake, and videos of Steve sexually abusing Abby. Later, Renee learned that Steve also had sold those photos and videos online for other men to watch. I know that it's very difficult to hear stories like this, but what may be even more shocking is how common these stories are for some children. At Care House, we hear dozens of stories like this every year. The truth is that 1 in 10 children will become victims of sexual abuse before they turn 18, and more children suffer from sexual abuse than from autism and asthma combined. That means that almost 3 children in every classroom in the state of Michigan, and over 20,000 of the kids here in Macomb County, are today living with the trauma of sexual abuse. And these numbers are surely higher than our best estimates because most children do never tell. These stories are familiar to children of every race, gender, and economic status. And these kids could be your kids, your neighbor's kids, or your kids' friends. Over 90% of child victims do know their abusers, and those who molest children look and act just like everyone else. Abusers can be neighbors, friends, coaches, teachers, clergy, parents, or other family members. They can be adults or children, and they can be men or women. Kids like Abby come to Care House from every community in Macomb County, and they were spared the trauma of multiple interviews. After a forensic interview, Care House offers follow-up services to help the child victims and their parents, intervening to promote healing and helping families to cope with the emotional stress and trauma that is caused not only by the acts of abuse but also by the investigative process. These services include crisis counseling, child safety assessments, access to forensic medical examinations, parent and child support groups, trauma-focused therapy sessions, family advocacy, emergency financial assistance, and referrals to other needed community resources. And as the designated counsel in Macomb County for the Michigan Children's Trust Fund, Care House also offers child abuse prevention information and training to professionals in the county and to the community at large. Families are never charged for any of the services that they receive at Care House. We're also proud that according to our most recent financial independent audit, 86 cents of every dollar that comes into Care House is specifically devoted toward serving children and families in our community. Since we opened in 1996, we have conducted over 7,900 child forensic interviews, and 80 of those children were residents of the village of Romeo. In 2018, we did 753 forensic interviews. 13 of those children were residents of Romeo. And in 2019, last year, we provided 757 forensic interviews, and 8 of those children resided in Romeo. Last year, we received $250 in CDBG funding from the Village of Romeo, which did help to support services for one of your families. We depend greatly on the support of our community to provide a voice for child victims and a safe place for them to be heard. We are very thankful to have you as a partner, and this year we respectfully request your consideration of our funding request in the amount of $1,800 to support services for 3 Romeo families. For more information on Care House, we invite people to visit our website at www.mccarehouse.org or to follow us on Facebook. And I'd love for you guys to come visit either one of our offices. We do tours monthly. We will have a big open house in April, which is Child Abuse Prevention Month. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions? We appreciate your time tonight to come and share your message with us. There are a couple of extra seats in the front row if anybody wants to sit, or you can take the chairs and move them to the back row if you're more comfortable back there. It's your call, but you're welcome. Is there anybody else who wanted to speak during the public hearing? Yes. I'm sorry I didn't catch your name prior to the meeting starting.
Sorry, Ann Bychago from Turning Point. Thank you for having me this evening. Turning Point is the only domestic violence sexual assault support program organization in Macomb County, and we're celebrating our 40th anniversary this year. We offer a comprehensive array of services, including a 24/7, 365 hotline, an emergency shelter for victims fleeing violence in their homes. Following that shelter residency, we have home-based community advocacy for families trying to reestablish their independence and safety. We offer individual and group counseling. We offer assistance with filing personal protection orders. In the state of Michigan, Macomb County has piloted a new program so that all personal protection orders are filed online. There's no more paper filing. So 93% of all personal protection orders filed in Macomb County are through our office that is down in the Circuit Court building in the county. We offer legal advocacy. We offer forensic nurse exams for survivors of sexual assault, and we provide community education and prevention in our schools. Although we did not have anybody identified as a Romeo resident in our shelter this past year, in total, Turning Point did provide 14,985 nights of shelter for 520 survivors in Macomb County alone, including 275 children. During those bed nights for those people, it cost Turning Point over $1 million to provide shelter, basic needs, meals, crisis intervention, case management, and child care, program advocacy, and support groups. Turning Point did provide the following additional services to Romeo residents. 5 survivors went down to that office, that PPO office in the county court building, and received help with filing a personal protection order. 6 Romeo survivors received counseling and advocacy services. 1 sexual assault survivor received crisis intervention and advocacy, and 4 Romeo survivors of rape received forensic exams following their sexual assault. 2 of those were children. 3 survivors who identified themselves as Romeo residents received assistance through our 24-hour hotline. If awarded the $500 we request of Romeo for the CDBG funding, Turning Point will be able to fund survivors of domestic violence approximately 20 nights of shelter at $25 a night. And I'd be happy to take any questions.
Excellent. Thank you, Ann. We appreciate you taking time to share your message. Scott, we have Scott here from Interfaith Caregivers.
That's not necessary. Thank you.
Good evening. So I work for Interfaith Volunteer Caregivers. We are a nonprofit charity that has, for the past 27 years, been providing basic assistance to hundreds of older, frail, and physically challenged adults, helping them remain safely in their homes. We have data and stuff that I gave you. Over the 27 years, we've had about 5,000 volunteers help a total of 4,000 clients. Now that's since our inception. On a yearly basis, about 500 senior citizens or disabled, physically challenged adults are helped out by about 500 different volunteers. Our assistance, volunteer assistance that we provide to them is everything from supportive services, indoor and outdoor chores, minor home repairs, housekeeping help, friendly visits, respite care, about 80 to 100,000 miles of transportation, free at no charge, provided by volunteers to help these seniors, and other services, because as our seniors are very vulnerable neighbors, and we want them to remain safe and independent in their own homes. I shared a sort of a sheet with some Romeo stats. Over the last number of years, we have about 30 volunteers that have been here in the Romeo area, and we have serviced 11 Romeo clients. Clients are those that are in need that we provide assistance for in the city of Romeo. Would like to thank you for last year awarding us $55 in CDBG funding. You do have a request, I believe, vetted through the county for a $168 request, but I'm newer to the organization, but from talking to our executive director, philosophically, even if you can't award any money, this is an opportunity that our office has by me being here of hopefully sharing with you sort of the mission and some information on what our organization does. Quite honestly, the $168 to help with a couple of chores is less important than honestly you folks being aware, FaceTime, of what our charity organization does, and hopefully even just you as independent citizens, people in the audience, if you know of any seniors that may be able to utilize our services and can use some assistance, know that there is an organization that in this case has been around for 25 plus years that offers that sort of assistance. What the CDBG financial request is called the Safe at Home program, which is pretty much just the chore services. So that is when, honestly, an arthritic senior is unable to physically fix something minor in the home, worry about a leaky faucet. Fairly recently, a lady wasn't able to physically make it to the basement to realize that her CO detector just needed batteries to be changed, and not having family or other resources around nearby, a volunteer that can offer a helping hand, a neighbor helping a neighbor is sort of what we're about. So we are looking to grow our service and be reaching into more frequently northern Macomb County and help the residents, again, low and moderate income residents have to qualify, but to help them in this part of the county. So we're hoping to help, again, more people live safely in their own homes and help seniors remain independent a little bit longer. So, any questions?
No, thank you, Scott.
Okay, and thank you again in the past for allocating and supporting us. I appreciate it.
Thanks for your time, Scott. Appreciate it, guys.
Turning Point, Mr. Rosenberg.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board. I'm Dick Rosenberg. I'm a resident of Bruce Township, but I'm here tonight representing Samaritan House. I currently serve Samaritan House as the chairman of the board of directors, and so I'm pretty well in tune with what's going on. And like all the other organizations, I was going to come up here and explain that we've been in business for 25 years, but others are 26 and 27, so I guess that's not so special. But we are the food pantry that serves this area. And you all know we're located down between 28 and 29 Mile Road. It is our facility where we put together all the food orders and everything. But our mission is to serve low and very low income people in the area. So with that in mind, I've spelled out in the brochure I've sent or given you tonight some of the facts about Romeo. We've spent last year, it was a little over $10,000 in direct cash aid or food aid, and then over $70,000 in material, which is the food collection that I think you're all familiar with that we do. So I think you're familiar from that standpoint. We're requesting this year a total of $2,000 in grant funds. Those are used to provide other things, and we do have other programs that give us monies coming in too. A lot of stuff from the Myers is a big contributor, and some of the programs that go on there. I think you might be aware of all the times that we're collecting food in the area and then sharing that, but we do some other things. For example, Sharing Tree, which is the Christmas program. We shared just a little over 800 gifts this year that were collected and wrapped and distributed. And I think that included a little over 200 families. And then there's some nursing home residents that are included in that. We have done a lot lately with our program in terms of serving shut-ins too. They're the elderly that need the food and can't get out to get it. So most people come in and get their food. But we do have a fair number, so there's a lot of food that goes out at the sometime during the month, and that's an interesting thing to be provided with. We involve just under 1,000 area residents in terms of volunteers every year, and that's a kind of a heartfelt thing to me, to be realizing that many people are involved in the program in one way or other, distributing it and running that organization. We are reaching out and trying to do some new things this year. We're asking our clients to use a budget, and so we provided a kind of a straightforward budget sheet for them to use, and asking them to do that for 3 or 4 months just to see how it goes. You're trying to help people, not run out of months before they run out of money. And so we're trying to look at some new things in that. And the other thing that we're looking at, which is kind of exciting, is going a little further south. We cover the northern pound, but we currently, our service area goes down to 23, and we're looking at going down beyond that, including all of Shelby Township. So that's kind of an exciting thing, but we've got to be careful doing that, is that can add a lot of clients. And so do we have the throughput, do we have the connection with the churches? It doesn't move as fast as sometimes you'd like to think it would be. So anyhow, that's a little wrap up of what we do. We were making a request this year for the $2,000 as I indicated, and can I answer any questions?
I don't think so. Thank you.
Thank you
Again,
very
thank
much for your attention and your previous support.
Absolutely. Is there anybody else here to talk at the public hearing? I think that accounted for everybody. Just so that you all know, later on in the agenda under new business, we have the allocations that we'll talk about. The county did cut our CDBG funds. Last year we received $10,000. This year we received $2,500 in allocation money. So the amount that we can dole out is significantly reduced by a quarter. So we'll do as best we can to make sure that everybody gets at least a little bit of what we're And we appreciate all of your resources, all of your information will be available in the Village Hall. If there are any residents who need some more information, please stop in and see myself or Catherine, and we'll try and get you the resources that you may need. So, again, thank you all. With that, I'm going to close the public hearing. It is 7:20, and I am going to open the regular portion of our meeting. If you will all please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Bartholomew?
Here?
Edwards?
Here.
Fowler? Hart?
Here.
Poznanski? Here. Segal?
Here.
President Malzahn? Here. We have a quorum. Good. Do we have approval of the minutes? And in your packet you have a copy of the minutes from Monday, December 16th meeting.
I'll make that motion.
Motion to approve by
Support.
Hart, support by Edwards. Any discussion? All right, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? In your packet, you have two sets of bills. You have the council bills, and then you have the check register. The bills total $37,976.76. The overall check register ran $409,709.33.
Make a motion to go with these?
Motion by Edwards, support by Poznanski. Any discussion? Roll call when you're ready. Edwards?
Yes.
Poznanski? Yes. Segal?
Yes.
Hart?
Yes.
Bartholomew?
Yes.
President Malzahn? Yes. Motion carried. Motion carries. At this time, approval of the agenda. I was requested to please table the SAW grant funded sewer rate study. Mr. Bailey was prepared to do that, but had a few follow-up questions regarding the pending sewer contract with Armada Township. So he needs just a bit more time to look at those numbers. So he asked if we could table it for 1 month, please.
Motion to approve the agenda with the table.
Support.
Motion by Poznanski, support by Bartholomew. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Number 8 is supposed to be under number 6, so I'm just going to sort of skip those up. We have our audit report. So we have Mr. Paul Bailey and Ms. Tammy Pitzer here, and I'm not sure who's presenting, but welcome and thank you.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here tonight. I handed out a copy of the outline rather than talk about the 60 or 70 page document. I always try to summarize it a little bit for you. But before we start that, one of the things you're going to notice with the handout is it's got two names on the front page. As of January 1st, Stuart Bovee Whipple merged with UHY to enhance the services we can provide our clients. We're still specializing in governmental accounting. We still have a court hearing office. The whole team will be exactly the same as it's been in the past, but we'll just have 3 different initials rather than SBW. It'll be UHY, so that's why there's 2 different letterheads. We'll just briefly go through, again, your audit report. As you know, you contract with our firm each year to come out and do your annual financial audit. We come out and spend a couple weeks with your staff testing the numbers, testing a lot of your controls. And if you turn in just past the table, title page, first, Roman numeral 1 there on the top. One of the first things in your audit report is something called the Independent Auditor's Report. It's technically the only portion of the report that belongs to our firm, and it's where we give an opinion on whether your financial statements are presented in accordance with general accepted accounting principles. Again, this year you have what they call an unmodified or clean opinion. That's what you're striving for. After we get the audit done, we're required to send it to the Michigan Department of Treasury. They're looking for the type of an opinion that you receive, and again, it's an unmodified or clean opinion there. The next 2 items we're not going to spend too much time with, but I always touch on them. One of the next things in the audit is something called the Management Discussions and Analysis. It's about a 5-page letter that just kind of overviews the village, some of the accounting policies, as well as some of the numbers. We're going to talk in more detail than that tonight, but that 5-page document is required to be in there in order to get that unmodified opinion. On Roman numeral 3, as I've explained in the past, there's really two sets of financial statements in your audit report. There's the commercial way of looking at the village, and there's the traditional way governments have always reported. The commercial way includes the value of buildings, roadways, things like that, and things you can't spend. They're assets of the village. They're definitely very valuable to the village, but you can't spend them again. So they're not included in the traditional numbers like governments have reported there. So if we go down to number 4, we'll start talking about the traditional way governments have reported for the last 30, 35 years. We're going to talk about your general fund. You'll see the balance sheet. The general fund had assets of $2,009,100 as of June 30th, 2019. Liabilities of $233,339. So a fund balance as of June 30th, 2019 of $1,775,761. You can see how that compares to the 18, and we'll talk a little bit if that's up significantly. Number 2 there is what they call the statement of revenues, expenses, or changes in fund balance, or the operating statement. This year your general fund took in $3,874,402. You spent $3,103,888. So before other types of revenues and expenses, you were $770,000 to the positive. Part of that is also you sold assets for $101,500. You transferred $100,000 to your motor pool fund. You transferred from the cable fund $30,000, and then you transferred to the public improvement $470,874, which was basically the closeout of the brownfield fund. The money went into the general fund and then was transferred over to the public improvement fund. So if you pull that out, your general fund would have been to the positive $331,140. So for the year ended June 30th, your general fund was to the positive $331,140. So a very good year. As always, we try to put graphs. If you turn it back to page 5, I'll touch on those first. The first graph on page 5 is the general fund revenues by function. It just basically breaks your revenues down by major category. You'll see this year about 51% of your revenues came from in the form of taxes. The next large piece was 43%. This was up from 36%. Again, the reason that's up, it was that $470,000 coming from the brownfield. That's included with that intergovernmental piece there. Last year that piece was $36,000. One thing I always caution about pie graphs, when you increase one piece of the puzzle, it makes the other ones all change in proportion. So again, in that intergovernmental, there's $470,000 that normally was not down there. So that's some of the reason the variance on the percentages. Sale of assets, you can see, was 3%, and then you can see the other pies. The next graph does the same thing with expenditures. You can see the top graph there is as of June 30, 2019, about 40 cents on every dollar your general fund was for public safety this year. That equates to last year was 54%, but again, you'll see operating transfers was up to 15%. And again, that's that $470,000 coming into your general fund and then being transferred out, which reduced the size of the public safety when you take it in total. Probably when you look at the dollars in total, they probably equaled each of the years, but as a percentage, they changed. And then your pie graph on page 7, you can see your fund balance. Top of the bar graph is your unassigned fund balance, and then the bottom graph is your total fund balance. And you can see in 14, your unassigned fund balance was just around $100,000, and you can see where it is today, up more than $1.6 million. So you've had some very good last 6 years. Got your fund balance back to a healthy level, and I commend you on that. It was very important. Back in 14, we were concerned that you were getting low on reserves. If we turn back to the top of page 2, say analysis of fund balance on the top. We break your fund balance, again, as your total fund balance as of June 30th, 2019 was $1,775,761, but there's actually 4 pieces of that. There's a portion of what they call non-spendable. That's actually inventory that you can't spend again, but it's gas and diesel fuel that is recorded in the general fund. Restricted money is drug forfeiture money that can only be used for drug forfeiture and police activities. For that's $37,000, so you pull that out. Your assigned fund balance of $91,862 was money when you approved the 2019 2019-20 year-end budget, you anticipated using. Your revenues were short by 91,000. You expected using 91,000 of your fund balance up, so you pull that out because you've already kind of allocated that, which leaves your unassigned fund balance of 1,636,903. And you'll see the unassigned fund balance is about 50% of your annual expenditures, 52.7%. You can see that's up significantly from where it was in 2015, where it was 6.4%. So again, very good improvement in your rainy day fund. As you know, there's a lot of other what they call funds that are used to keep track of the activities. First of all, there's what they call special revenue funds. You'll see your major street fund there. I won't read the revenues and expenditures, but your major street fund was to the good $55,310. Your local street was to the good $77,159. The municipal street, $155,797. The cemetery had expenditures over revenues of $22,197. The inspection fund expenses over revenues of $70,456. And the cable was to the good $6,962. We list your fund balances for each of those funds. You can see the major street fund had a fund balance as of June 30th of $267,631. The local street $281,456. The municipal street $184,015. Cemetery $111,000. Inspection fund $62,820. And your cable fund $118,755. You also have what they call a capital projects fund, where you've put money aside for major capital projects. This year the revenues was only $544, really interest earned, but you transferred in that $470,874. So when you add that to your beginning fund balance of $33,648, your capital projects now has $505,066. So a little over $500,000 in your capital projects fund now. On page 3 and 4, or page 3, is your what they call your enterprise funds. These are funds that operate similar to a business. We are going to talk next month a little bit more about your sewer fund in particular. But you can see the revenues and expenditures down there. If you go down about one-third down the page, you'll see your water fund. You can see $175,528. If you take a look on kind of on a cash basis, your water fund was to the good $175,528, and your wastewater fund was to the good $150,108. Working capital is if you take your current assets, cash, investments, accounts receivable, and pay off all your payables, so payroll, accounts payable, how much would you have left over? That's kind of like your fund balance. Your water fund would be to the good $985,669, and your wastewater system fund would be to the good $556,777. So looking pretty good. Your internal service funds are funds that operate to serve the other funds of the village. First of all, you'll see the motor pool fund there. In the very bottom number there, they were to the positive $100,311. And then your retiree health insurance, basically you just transfer money over and then transfer it out. Actually expenses over revenues of $16,187 for the year. And then on the top of page 4, you can just see the working capital. The working capital for the motor pool fund would be $102,454, and in retiree health care you'd have $137,301. You also have what they call component units reported in your audit report. They're entities that have separate boards. The DDA there, you can see they took in revenues of $178,230, had expenses of $196,455, so had expenses over revenues of $18,225. Beginning fund balance was $130,723, so their fund balance as of June 30, 2019 was $112,000. And you can see the brownfield was just closed out this year. That transfer, again, as we've talked about before, the $470,000 going over. That's a real quick synopsis of the numbers of about a 75-page document. Any questions on the numbers? I got a couple letters I want to touch on, but any questions on the numbers that I think will...
Paul, the inspections on page 2, is that like the building inspection?
Yes, building, plumbing, electrical inspection, that's right.
Okay.
Yes.
Also on the top of page 2, when the percentages, does that also include the brownfield?
Which one did you say?
The unassigned percentages, does that also include the brownfield?
The unassigned fund balance?
Yeah.
Not really, because it went in and went out, so you put it in there, but you took it
So that's a little more
out.
actual.
Right, so
Okay.
it's not in there, that's a separate fund. There's two other reports that we always issue. One's called the Report on Internal Control. As I've explained in the past, when we come in to do your audit, not only do we audit your numbers, but we take a look at your control procedures. We try to make sure that there's two sets of eyes on all transactions. We take a look at how cash receipts get into the system, how they get recorded, how they get into the general ledger, how monies get paid out, you approve bills tonight, how they get checks get signed, and so forth. And if we become aware of any weaknesses, we're required to report it in this letter. The first letter, again, is what they call the report on, Independent Auditor's Report on Internal Control. And we do have a couple items this year on this report. Again, remember, this is for the fiscal year ended June 30th, 2019. There's been quite a few changes since that time in your accounting system. So some of these could have already been corrected, but it was for the year where we audited. The first one just talks about your cash receipting process. We've had this one here in the past, and it just talks about all money should be recorded immediately at the time of coming in over the front counter. For the past year, what happened is in prior years, a lot of times tax payments and so forth got put aside and got batched into the system versus being recorded immediately. That just allows things to happen. So what we're suggesting here is you set up a system whereby when money comes in over the counter, it's immediately recorded right within the system, so that it eliminates a lot of things that can happen to your system. And I know you changed softwares as of like today, I understand, as I walked in. So hopefully the new computer software you have will hopefully help with this. I know you looked at that procedure when you were doing it. The second one over there talks about cash controls, and there's really three parts to this. The first part just talks about your normal bank reconciliation. When we come in to do the audit, some of the reconciliations haven't been done accurately, and there was a lot of reconciling items on your bank recs. It's very important that the bank recs bank reconciliations be reconciled to your accounting system on a monthly basis within a few days after the end of each month. It catches any types of errors that can occur there, so we're suggesting within 15 to 20 days after the end of each year that you balance all your bank accounts. The second part there just talks about either utilizing Positive Pay or Impress Bank Account. Positive Pay is a system whereby when you write checks, you upload them to the bank. The bank then verifies the vendor and the amount as they come through to make sure that they hadn't been altered or another check be put in. It just puts a safeguard there. Or Impress means if you write checks for $30,382, you transfer exactly that over, and you don't keep any more than that in your check account. So we're just suggesting you look at one or both of those procedures. And then finally, there was, again, back kind of with cash receipts there, the last part of that recommendation talks about if there was a duplication of payment on your tax revenues, it wasn't recorded, but rather just put into the bank and then a check cut out. Really what should happen is all money should be receipted, no matter whether you're going to give it back or not. It provides a good trail of, okay, that person paid this twice, and here's the check back to them there. The third recommendation there is more of a formality. As I've explained in the past, quite a few years ago when Enron and everything was going on, they come up with the idea that everybody should have on staff somebody that can prepare these financial statements, all the footnotes and everything with them. The clients we deal with, that's what we do for them. We help them pull the financial statements together, but it's technically a weakness in a system. But most governmental units have that issue, that where the auditors prepare the financial statement for them. I wouldn't worry about that. That's pretty common. That's your report on internal control. There's also another letter called the Audit Communication Letter. Because CPA firms aren't required to come to a meeting like this, we appreciate the opportunity. I've done it for a number of years. This letter just kind of explains whether we had any issues with your audit. As you know, this year we come out, we kind of got started, had to pull out for a while you had contracted with somebody to help reconcile some of the accounts. Our staff helped with some of that stuff. So there was some back give and take on that during the year. That's one of the reasons it was December before we were issuing your financial statements. just trying to get the records. Hopefully in the future that won't happen. We can come in August and get your audit done, August or September, and get your audit taken care of. There's also, when we complete the audit, we come out with a draft and we sit down with the administration and we go through it page by page, talk about all the numbers, any suggestions we have. And if we have any suggestions, we attach them to the back of this letter. They're not what we call weaknesses and controls, but just areas we want you to look at. And they're pretty well listed here. Again, there's just a few other items that we want you to consider that would make the accounting more efficient and effective as you go. I can answer any questions. I can spend more time with it if you'd like. I know you had a long meeting.
We went over it in detail, so yes, thank you. We spent a good, better part of over half a day doing that. So I wanted to take a minute to thank Paul and Tammy. Tammy was the field representative from the firm that came out and actually brought the team in and did the audit. So, you know, she was very courteous and helpful, and, you know, we went through a very difficult period with our former accountant leaving and the status of which we were left. I also invited Tim to the meeting, Tim Sadowski. Did I say your name correctly? Yeah. Tim is our new accountant, so if no one has met him, I thought he would stand up and introduce himself, and so that you would get used to seeing his face, although, yes, he sometimes just works from home and remotes in, but he worked miracles. He truly did. He had to recreate basically our entire audit fiscal year from the previous year, as well as starting this current fiscal year, redoing the entire thing, and he's been instrumental in helping us get the information transported into BSNA, which, yeah, that happened today. I don't know if it's up and running yet or if we're going to have some more formal training, but they were there trying to move everything over from fund balance into BSNA, so hopefully that'll be up and running pretty soon. He's also helping us with the positive pay aspect, which was one of the notes that Paul suggested that we do, and helping us with some cash controls, just some procedures that we're going to institute so that we don't have any of those audit comments next year. So we appreciate his professionalism and everything he's brought to us. So thank you, Tim, very much. And if anybody has any questions, feel free to ask him.
Welcome.
Thanks, Tim.
All right. Excellent. Perfect.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to work with you again. I'll see you next month again.
Yes. And now when I say UHY instead of SBW, you might take a bit because I still can't quite get used to it, but we'll work on that, right?
We can't either, so.
I'm gonna hear Word Al.
Thank you.
Word Al. Yes, I'm totally gonna hear that. Thank you. All right, let's move on quickly to correspondences. I just have one letter. It came to me, it's a sort of an oddity. It came to by Chester Zahowski, ex officio planning commission member. Mr. Fowler reached out to him, actually kind of ran into him out in public, and mentioned that we were reworking the master plan. And so he was asking him, Mr. Zahowski, to submit plans for the property that was just recently annexed into the village. And I think there was maybe some confusion. I got Chester all situated because he doesn't know what he wants to do with that property yet. And I said, well, the master plan work that we're doing isn't specific to one parcel ID. It's not for that purpose. It's a much broader form of zoning and planning. So I just wanted you to know that I have his email, and he said that he's going to do something, but he doesn't know what it is at this point. So.
Is he going to come to the meeting, did he say? Next week?
I don't think so. Yeah. I mean, you mean the master plan kickoff meeting? I invited him, but I don't know if he's coming or not. He didn't confirm. So that was it for correspondences. All right. At this time, we have on our agenda public forum. Is there anybody else in the audience that wishes to address this board? Hearing none, let's move on to our officer reports. I wanted to take a moment and thank the voters for the privilege of serving as president and CEO for them. It's been a great first year. I really want to thank this board, each one of you, for your support, and extend my gratitude for the time and effort that you dedicate to your job performance as well. So thank you. 2019 was a very busy first year for myself and Clerk Trapp, and I wanted to use my president's report this month to highlight what our accomplishments and efforts have achieved. So, a 2019 bit of year in review. We received state approval for our corrective action plan on our OPEB liability. We approved 2 major long-term contracts, our fire ALS contract and our waste hauler contract. We retained the services of our new license planner, Steve Casson. We updated and or adopted 8 ordinances this past year. We held 4 public hearings. We introduced our sidewalk replacement program and began the first installations. We started updating our master plan with community engagement. We completed our sewer and water, our SAW grant asset management plan. All of our village boards and commissions are meeting regularly, including our cemetery and our tree board. Clerk Trapp and I together interviewed and hired 6 new staff members. We hired 2 cemetery crew members. We have a new DPW administrator upon Donna's retirement. 1 DPW staff was replaced. We have a new accountant and we have a new HR payroll clerk. Cemetery section Clerk Trapp had 19 regular burials, 16 cremains burials, and 46 foundations that she had installed in the cemetery this year. Quite a busy schedule for her on that. I negotiated the non-union employee contract, which we adopted. In the Village Hall, we have the new phone system, we have a new IT provider, we have a new social media page, we introduced individual village emails, we have an after-hours Dropbox, we hosted 3 intern Romeo High School students, and we hired a new cleaning crew. Outside of regular office, I personally attended 68 events. 14 Chamber of Commerce ribbon cuttings, 9 of those were new businesses located in the village of Romeo. I attended 11 community dignitary engagements, 29 regular public meetings, 5 special public meetings, and 12 training and educational seminars. So, quite a long list. So thank you all for your help, and I really do appreciate it. We had a good year.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The building, the furnace and the police, because it's
It's
still.
halfway finished.
Okay.
We have the new HVAC equipment, but we're waiting for the work to be completed on the interior of the old mechanical room before we move the lockers up and then start the bathroom renovations, so.
Next year.
Yep, it'll be completed next year. Started, I thought about mentioning it, but it's not done, so.
Next year or in 20?
Well, hopefully this coming current year. That is my report. Clerk Trapp.
Mine's not as extensive, but just a few things to mention. Last week I attended the Macomb County Clerks Association luncheon. The main topic discussed was how Proposal 3 in last November's election has put more requirements on clerks that handle elections, and will the clerks in Macomb County be advocates for early voting that is currently not available in Michigan? That seems to be a new hot topic. And I am still taking registration, or anybody interested in the Citizens Planner program education course, which is starting in February. Last year we sent 2 planning commission members and 1 trustee. There is a scholarship available, 1 per community. However, last year we were very fortunate to be awarded 3 scholarships for all of our attendees representing the village of Romeo. If you are interested, either here at a trustee level or planning commission level, you would like to attend, I need to know by Friday, January 31st, so I can register you. At this time, like I said, we only have 1 confirmed scholarship, but we don't know, could get more. That's all I have. She's covered a lot of it.
It's a joint effort, right? Our treasurer, Sherry Maddox.
Hello, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
January 14th, I attended the Macomb County Treasurer's meeting, and there was an announcement from the Macomb County Treasurer that anyone that had forfeiture property coming up that met with the county, those were all approved. So if anyone in this community, they're still out there working. As today, we started the BSNA software program system this week, and it'll transition into next week. So any of those key concerns in your audit report have already been rectified. More importantly, to as Paul communicated to, from a cash receipting process, it'll be done right at the counter level, whether it be at the front counter or in my office level, and we'll be training additional individuals for cash receipting, which Chris, she's been working in the office. She's learned training as well as today. So there's more than just Cindy that will be cash receipting. So that'll alleviate a lot of issues that has been going on for a number of years. Also, Paul talked about positive pay. That was another issue. I signed up for positive pay last Friday, and I'm working with the new accountant, and I just want to share with everybody that it has been a pleasure working with him. His skill set level is just, words just totally cannot describe how I'm feeling, and just, I mean, it's just, our whole office operation is just like, wow. And now going into BSNA, you know, we'll have 100% accuracy when we receive a payment. The funds will be immediately distributed into the right general ledger account, and from a reconciliation standpoint, Tim and his experience level, you know, any of those concerns that were in the audit reports, you know, are no longer so. And I just want to welcome him, and thank you.
All right, our trustee reports.
I
Anybody
think
have
we need a
anything
speech from Tim
additional?
when this is all over.
Right.
Yeah, he's going to say working with me or us, right?
Indeed. Any trustee reports? Anybody want to share anything?
Can I bring a previous pet peeve with the free newspapers that get stuck in our snowmobiles?
I know they're back.
Can we stop that?
Unfortunately, no.
It's
Can we
litter.
opt
I mean,
in
it's
rather than
litter.
have to opt out?
Well, you can
do
call
it
the, you
household
can,
by
right,
household.
you
You
can
have
call
to do it
them
yourself.
and tell them that you do not wish the paper to be delivered.
Can I send them the bill for snowblower repairs?
Can try,
Okay.
you can try. Yes.
Unbelievable. But that's it.
I know. All right, let's move on to committee reports. The Armada Sewer, we're going to talk about that a little bit later under new business. I'm assuming there's been nothing new for the parking lot committee as well?
I submitted Nate's proposal and that's it.
Perfect. One of the subcommittees that has sort of dropped off was the AT&T subcommittee, which was Mr. Hart and Mr. Seidel. So that's back on. They have agreed to most of the terms that we talked about, and Mr. Clark and I met with them. So their representative is supposed to be forwarding back a lease. He hopes to have it on our agenda for February. There's still some concerns about zoning, and that may need to go before Planning Commission. We're gonna run that past Mr. Casson to just make sure that if we need to do a site plan review or anything with that building process, what the
They got to the point that
procedure is.
they want.
They want to move forward,
They don't need
yes.
to do any more survey kind of, they're
They
ready
did
to
their
go.
preliminary, right? I asked him to get that to me by the end of next week so that the subcommittee could meet and just review one more time to make sure that all of the recommendations that came from the engineering firm, the ones that actually work on the water tower, were met, and then we can make a recommendation to the board if we agree on it.
That's
So,
great news.
just giving you the update. I just got that phone call this afternoon, so
Good.
we'll be good with that. We have no unfinished business, so we can move on to new business. Wastewater treatment emergency equipment purchase. This was an incident that we actually, I already authorized it because it wasn't timely enough. It was an urgent need to repair, and so we didn't want to call a special meeting, so I authorized Tim to go ahead and make the purchase. So today it's just more for information. It's in his budget. He can answer any questions about what this new fancy refrigerator does.
We've got 4 sampler machines for different parts of the plant, the raw, the primary, the secondary, and the final. We had one of them go down. It's a refrigerator with a computer and a peristaltic pump on top, and it takes samples randomly throughout the day and stores them in the refrigerator. And our lab guy takes them out every day and runs them.
So we want that refrigerator to work.
Kind of looks like this. I don't know if you can see it. And that's what we have.
A little bit of kegerator, right? Yep, for 8 grand.
You don't want a sample from the tap.
Yeah,
I don't
Well,
want
we did-
anything out
we
of
did
that
say-
kegerator.
We did save about $9,000 with the purchase of our boiler this year. So we have some money left in capital outlay, and that's where that's gonna come.
How old was the broken one?
What's that?
How old was the one that broke down?
About 30 years old.
Okay.
There's still a couple that are just that old too that probably have to replace in the coming years.
How many of those do we have?
There's 4 of them. There's one for the raw, the primary, secondary, and final parts of the plant.
Same brand, new brand, company? product?
Now, Hack is pretty much the company that we deal with. There was a couple others, but they bought them out. So that's why it costs so much.
Okay.
Any questions?
Right, it'll be approved when the, comes through on the council bills, but I just certainly wanted to just let you know that was the circumstances surrounding it. Item B, we have our community block grant fund allocations. As I indicated before, last year we were given a $10,000 allocation. This year, $2,500. Every single organization is extremely deserving. I wish we just had unlimited funds that we could, give them all of what they're asking because their services are so important. Unfortunately, we aren't able to do that. So as you can see in front of you, we are recommending an allocation, and it's just our recommendation at this point. Chore is on an automatic request from the county, so we don't have the option to do anything but give them the $300. So they give us $2,500. They tell us that we have to at least give $300 to this chore group. McRest, we're recommending $600. Samaritan House $500. Care House $200. Interfaith Volunteer Caregivers $100. The Macomb Warming Shelter $550, and Turning Point $250.
And the only thing, just from the presentation that I was kind of thinking is Care House, we gave them a little bit less this year than what we gave last year. I know we have a lot less money, and I know we have different people that were in there. But there was a significant amount of Romeo. It was like 10, 12 families that were impacted in that. So I don't know whether we could pull a little bit, Interfaith, we had done, 50, and they already said that's not as much money, but, the 200 does, covers a family, so I would just see if, and I don't know, where we'd pull that, but maybe bolster that a little bit. At least, I guess I would say that, maybe pull from the Interfaith and give to the Care House another 50 to at least match what we did last year.
Okay, so is that your motion?
Just a discussion.
Okay.
I don't know if anybody else had any other thoughts around those
Macomb
numbers.
Warming is the other large one.
Right, I think they had one of the largest, when Catherine and I, were discussing this, we looked at how much money in the sheet, below that is what they're actually requesting. So we looked at how much are they requesting in percentage to what we actually have, so that's why we allocated a little bit more for Macomb Warming. Right.
Did we look at the percent they're requesting versus the percent for them to operate their business? I mean, that information's probably not available to us to follow where I'm coming from.
Right, we just get this sheet below of, who they are, how much they're asking from all the other municipalities. And ours is the highlighted one of what, we had $11,548 in requests, and they gave us $2,200 because they already dictated the $300 to use. So
I think one of the important points that everyone has mentioned or at least alluded to is that there's an option for private citizens to also donate to these causes too. So
absolutely, and I'm sure most of them. I know Samaritan House does. Has all sorts of fundraisers, spaghetti dinners, and other opportunities to just generate funds.
You guys put a lot of time and effort into it. I'll make the motion to accept it as you guys have, you and Catherine have allocated it.
Okay.
Versus working 50 one way or the other.
So we have a motion by Seidel, we have support by Posnansky. Do you want to do a roll call?
Sure. Okay, Seidel,
Yes.
Posnansky,
Yes.
Bartholomew,
Yes.
Hart,
Yes.
Edwards,
Yes.
President Lozon.
Yes.
That's 6 votes, yes.
Motion carried. So that's everybody. So I think everybody, well, it's still here, but so thank you, ladies. Appreciate it. Okay, next up on our agenda are 2020 annual board appointments. You have a packet you have a spreadsheet in your packet with my nominations and my recommendations. all of those on the top, which would include our supervisor of public works, appointing or reappointing Tim Metz, supervisor of our wastewater treatment plant, Al Lapierre, wastewater program manager, Al Lapierre, police chief, Dan Sokolnicki, village attorney, Mark Clark, village prosecutor, Mark Clark, plumbing and heating inspector, Ken Borzi, electrical inspector, Tim Dillon, building inspector, Michael Bomarito, and our noxious weed inspector, Chief Dan Sokolnicki. I don't know if you want to just vote on that, or if you want to just do it as a whole. It's entirely up to you.
Let's do it as a whole.
Okay, and then I'll just keep reading. So from the library board, we are reappointing Mr. Grandstaff and Elizabeth Miller. To the cemetery board, we are reappointing Diane Smiles. We have a new appointee, Miss Sandra Brooks. Thank you very much. For our downtown development authority, we have a new appointee, Greg Tarr. He'll be taking Mr. Chaika's seat. We have 3 reappointments, Zach Hayes, Carl Brandt, and Randy Seidel. For the planning commission, I am recommending appointing Chris Smiles to a new term and Kim Davis to a new term. There will be 1 vacancy left. I am still waiting confirmation from a couple other people that I've been talking to. So, for the tree board, reappointing Chris McLeod. And for our zoning board of appeals, reappointing Leanne Struschel, Jeff Fritz, Ron Russell would be a new appointee, Nathan Bartholomew would be a new appointee, and the alternate would be Jamie Lucero. Did I say that correctly? Lucero, sorry about that. Those are my recommendations for my current appointments.
I'll make a motion to approve the appointments.
Support.
Motion by Edwards, support by Hart. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Motion carried. So those are new appointees. If you could please make your way into the village hall. Clerk Trapp will be happy to swear you in, and then get you some welcome packets and some meeting agendas, so you'll know when those begin. Thank you. I appreciate everybody's really, attention and willingness to serve in this community. So I have a good stack full of people, and I spoke to each and every one of those people to make sure that they were willing to stay on board. So. Next up on our agenda, we have the St. Baldrick's permit. St. Baldrick's is scheduled for March 28th. It is in the same location as the previous couple of years, closing downtown Main Street from St. Clair down to Rawls Street. The chair this year again will be Ruth Hudebrecht, and I'll be her co-chair. And any questions?
Get it down to a science.
We're trying. We're trying.
Is police, how does it, are St. Baldrick's paying them, or is it volunteer hours? How would?
Last year, Chief Dan volunteered the man hours. Yeah. And,
I just take it out of my budget.
I mean, they don't work for free, but yeah, he doesn't
Kinda like
charge
Peach
to
Fest.
say, yes. Yeah. And so does the police department, our fire department, excuse me.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve it as requested.
We have a motion by Hart, support by Poznanski. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, moving on, we have our annual bylaw review. We'd just like to review these. I'm asking all of my boards, our boards, to do this in January, just as a procedure, whether or not they make any changes or recommendations. It just sort of is a nice refresher of how, we're gonna sort of operate and maintain. There was just one request. Catherine wanted to move the scheduled time for agenda item request so that we are notified by Tuesday before a scheduled meeting, so that we can get the agenda drafted and get it posted where it needs to be. The follow-up documentation doesn't necessarily need to come with the agenda item. We can still allow a little more time if we're gathering those facts, but just so that we have a heads up that there's an agenda item, we make sure we have enough time to reach out to whoever, if we have to, serve letters to the public or whatever it is. We just feel we need it just one more day. So that's the only recommended change to our bylaws.
Motion to make the change?
Okay. Motion by Poznanski, support by Bartholomew. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. 6-0. We have email and social media policies, 2 new policies. This was worked on by Trustee Poznanski and Clerk Trapp. There was some discussion early on last year when we looked at our bylaws with the request to have these 2 policies drafted. And we made some suggestions at one early meeting, and then I think it just sort of dropped off the radar. So we revisited, and they put together this draft in front of you.
Made the changes to the email policy that we talked about at that meeting. And then I went on basically what they call rip off and duplicate to other social media, local municipalities, some that were close to us, tried to around our size, and came up with what our policy would be, and then a comment policy, so that who's ever in charge has the right to delete when they need to delete and that sort of thing. As short as possible too. I mean, they were pages long. Other municipalities had, they would have a separate Facebook page for their DPW, for their wastewater, and we didn't need all that kind of stuff. So this was as thin as I thought it could get, and covered us legally also.
Again, I'm sure that it's something that we could, revisit as new
Things come
scenarios pop up. We can't accommodate for every situation, and I'm sure
Yeah,
some
and
of it
they're
we'll just
amended.
have to roll with, but.
Some of them were amended, if, say, with the social media, we branch into Twitter and other things, then you put those on here, and you make policies, or, comment policies for that too, or you put the words in here.
Do we want to keep 48 hours for termination of the account? Shouldn't it be quicker than that?
Are you looking at
Which
the?
one?
Our Village of Romeo's responsibilities where we shall terminate the account within 48 hours of user's employment. or
Well,
elected.
we can do it sooner, but if Jason isn't available, take into
It's a
account
weekend.
if there's a
I mean,
weekend,
that's almost an immediate,
right, which is what we did in the case, when
I'd
we
like to
had,
see it as an immediate deal,
Right.
but I know it's
It
not
was-
always.
within a few hours the
There's
last
one-
time.
Right, there's ones you know you need to do it right away.
Indeed, but if we don't have the ability to do it, certainly 48 hours is more reasonable, again, if we're up against a weekend.
Because
So-
they really don't have access to any other information, right? It's just their email account.
Correct,
So it's different than having database access and things along that line. If you had
yes,
someone with database access, that would be, and almost prior to notifying them they don't have a job, that they're turned off.
yes.
Mark, have you had a chance to look at these?
I have.
Any comments?
I had one comment, and that is on the electronic mail policy, if you were going to address more specifically the personal use. This seems to address appropriately so use as a village trustee or village employee that the village use. I didn't know if you wanted to address personal use of what essentially is the village's email system. And that's a question more than a comment, just for your consideration, whether you thought that was something that should be addressed or not. I don't think it's required, but I didn't know what your expectations were in terms of the overall management of the electronic mail system.
Well, Christine, Kevin, how do you guys use it at the office? Do you?
We do not use it for personal use at all. I would think that would be,
It's a simple line to have.
ill-advised. I think we all probably have our own personal emails that we, because I understand that this is FOIA-able information, it's public and anybody can see it, so we just have never used it. So it doesn't mean we need to include it in the policy, but we certainly can to say that, personal use is prohibited of this email. So we could add that line.
Or subject to the supervisor's approval. I'm not saying you should or shouldn't. It's just if it becomes an issue and it's not addressed in your policy, then you're wading in muddy water. And so,
I guess I kinda like the supervisor approval rather than just banning it altogether, because there might be something that might have to go out, I don't know what.
Yeah, personally, I can't
Personally,
think
I
of a
wouldn't approve it
scenario.
if I was a supervisor.
Right, But, I mean, if that's this
Sorry.
recommendation, I'm not opposed to including it, so we can certainly,
But it does cover both sides of it.
Again, I mean, it's your, your work.
so would you like to just,
Where would we,
I mean, we
what
can
section
either,
where we'd add it?
um,
Was there a particular one you guys did?
I would just think it would be email users' responsibilities. So you
Who's my
would just sort of
supervisor?
put that in just one more bullet point and say, use of village email shall not be used
Supervisor.
for personal communications.
Supervisor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No in the home, no. Great.
So I think we can still go ahead and vote if you're in favor to do
I
that.
do. Yep.
Add it, and then we can just email out final copies for
We'll sign
everybody.
it
Looking for a
next.
motion, or?
Mhm.
I'd like to make the motion that we approve this Village of Romeo social media policy. Second.
With that correction.
With the correction.
So I'm sorry, are we doing two separate motions? I just want to be clear, one for email and one for social media, or does your motion include both? Because they're two separate.
No, we can do two separate then.
Okay.
The first being the approval of the social media policy.
Social
Okay.
media policy.
Okay, so that was motion by Bartholomew to go with support. Support by Poznanski. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
And this is for social media.
Social
just
media,
on
yep. And now we can address the email policy.
So I'll make a motion to adopt the policy with that, or Nathan, what you were doing it.
No, you go ahead.
All right, with that change of use under the supervisor's permission.
Okay, motion by Hart, do we have support?
Support.
Support by Edwards, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right.
So we'll sign, you want us to sign this next meeting? or-
Yeah, you
Yeah,
know
we
what,
can
we'll
just
just bring
complete
fresh
report.
copies with that added, and then we can all just sign it at next month's meeting, if that's
So
okay.
it was with the addition of supervisors?
Permission
Permission or do not use it?
Personal
Oh.
use upon the supervisor's permission.
So are we signing this to acknowledge that?
Just
we
acknowledge it,
really-
you received it, yep.
Voting on
Okay.
it and proving it doesn't count?
We'll have it in your file.
Okay.
So it's not permitted, except it's however you guys want to word it on there.
Okay, I meant to pass this out before too. If we could just take one of these and pass this down for the Armada sewer contract. I did realize that these were not in your packets. This is a letter that I asked Mr. Clark to help me draft to go with the Armada sewer.
A company.
A company, that's the word I'm looking for, thank you, Bob. So, the subcommittee met, and I believe we're making a recommendation to authorize us to enter into this agreement with Armada Township for this intergovernmental agreement. We took out the multipliers, the inflation rates we looked at. The biggest thing that I wanted to reiterate to Armada Township, which is what's stated in this letter, is that we agreed to extend it to June 30th, but the special assessment district, the pipe in the ground, and everything needed to be operational by June 30th. He has indicated to me that he was hoping to attend the meeting tonight. He had a budget workshop, I haven't seen him yet. It's probably him emailing, saying that they are prepared to adopt the special assessment district in Armada and then work with their financial people to actually analyze the numbers for the users that are in their special assessment district and the numbers that are in this contract so that they have firm footing on what it's actually gonna cost them. So they're not.
Did you get the email from him today?
Yes,
Okay, so you did see that.
yes. Yeah, if you wanna recap that.
No, it's
Okay,
fine, I mean,
yeah.
basically just what you said, they have a special assessment district meeting on February 12th.
Yes.
That he wanted to be able to have all the information together for, so that he could present it to the board.
No,
Yes.
it was my understanding that if they didn't have it, they would just start paying at that point, but we're not looking to do that.
Right, well, if they want to come back and counter that, they can, and I relayed that to him, but I was not prepared to offer him that.
So
Our
we're
agreement
not
and our
off.
discussion was June 30th, and, this is what we expect, that it's gonna be installed, operational, and flows are gonna be starting to generate some revenue to the village, because we have other users and other requests from other developers in the area that want that capacity. And without this being completed or closed, we can't look to sell it to anybody else, so.
Right. Now, if this was, they're moving forward and then they said it was gonna be in July, let's say they needed another 30 days because it's May or whatever, it was my understanding like we would move with that, but then they would be paying as of that June, is that?
Well, if they needed to make that request to extend it beyond June 30th, then we would entertain that request. I believe that it would, my position or my recommendation would be, yes, we would look at whatever your extended time frame is, but from this point forward, July 1, it's going to start costing you
right.
some money.
No, we all
because-
agreed on that.
Right.
I'm just saying, and
We didn't put that in this agreement, though. We just said
okay.
you have
Is
until
it-
June 30th, because that's what we originally talked about.
Let's say monsoons are going, they can't put it in, they're 2 weeks late.
Right.
That's not
Yep.
gonna, then they're halfway started. It's really that they're moving forward with their intent, we're not holding it, and it would be payable upon that date.
Yes.
That would be kind of our
Indeed.
unofficial position. Okay.
Yep. So, any other discussion on this agreement? Otherwise, motion to authorize me to sign it and to send off the cover letter to Armada Township.
I'll make a motion to authorize Christine to sign the contracts and move forward.
Motion by Edwards, support by Hart. Maybe you should take a roll call on that, since there's some money. Okay, Edwards,
Yes.
Hart,
Yes.
Kwasniewski,
Yes.
Bartholomew,
Yes.
Segal,
Yes.
President Lozon,
Yes.
motion carried.
All right, and last but not least, we have our police communication recorder purchase. So Dan came before me and said that we have a box that doesn't work anymore, and it basically records, or the equipment should record all communications.
It's supposed to record all the 911 calls coming in, the business lines coming in, and radio traffic. Right now, it's sporadically recording the 911 calls. It hasn't been working for quite some time. It's just something that's been overlooked by previous administrations, one of those things. And I don't want to wait until I get caught up on something. So I did some research and found some units, and as you can see in my proposal, I think the prices are ridiculous. For a tape recorder, $12,000 is a little much. I did find one that's a replacement, basically, of the unit that I have now that we purchased back in, I think it was 2007. It's a plug-and-play unit. It's the same unit. We just unplug the one, plug the new one in. They're talking $3,900. Comes with a 15-day free trial. So if I don't like it, send it back. And then they came back, if I trade in the old one, they'll give me another $500. So we're talking $3,400 as compared to some of these other quotes of $12,500 plus installation. So I'm suggesting we do that. Anything that I do buy though, it'll come out of forfeiture money. It's not something that's in my budget. It's not something I planned for. It's just one of those things. Hey, I need to get this. Where can I get the money? We do have the money in forfeiture, so it doesn't cost the village of Romeo anything. It's money that's sitting there.
I'd like to make the motion that we move forward, allow the chief to purchase this piece of equipment he needs.
Do we record, how long do we have to keep recording? So is this stuff going to a database that 10 years from now?
Well, this unit will have a database, and with our amount of calls, it'll last for years.
Is it local or is it like uploaded to the?
It'll be local, it'll be ours. We will have access to it from remote areas, which is completely unnecessary. That's some of the selling points of the higher units, that I can be at home and listening to it like that's ever gonna happen. We don't need that. So, all the bells and whistles we don't need, we just
But
need
is it
something.
back up on the cloud somewhere? Or does
No,
it have that?
it'll actually be
It's a
backed
hard-
up on solid state hard drives.
It's on the unit itself.
Yeah, on the unit itself. That's what we have right now. And it was on a computer system, and the computer's old. It actually moves at us. and there's just no room on it, the software's outdated, it's nothing I can update, and for the price, it's more economical to just buy a whole unit standalone by itself.
But if we wanted to, we could pull it off the hard drive, put it on another.
Do a backup.
Yeah, I can back it up to something
I
else
just-
if I need to, if I start running out of
Well, we should do it just
room.
for, in light
Yeah.
of the Epstein.
Well, normally what happens if something happens, something of major interest happens, we go to it and say, make a copy of this right now.
Of that, okay.
That doesn't always come into effect, you know, it might be 3 months from now, somebody's complaining about something, and I gotta be able to go back
Right.
and look for it.
Yeah, you
That
wanna have that.
information will still be there on a newer system. Right now, it's
But
hit
yeah,
and miss.
our tech guys have
I'd-
to figure out how to back it up. and have it.
Some kind of quarterly backup or something, just,
Support that.
so, yeah.
All right, so we had a motion on the table by Bartholomew to approve the purchase. We have support by trustee Poznanski.
Thanks, Dan.
Roll call, please.
Bartholomew,
Yes.
Poznanski,
Yes.
Sidell,
Yes.
Edwards,
Yes.
Hart,
Yes.
President Malzahn,
Yes.
motion carried.
Okay, we have public comments on our agenda. Is there anybody who wanted to make any comment? I just have a quick few reminders that I wanted to update everybody on. We have our urban forestry presentation at the Grosvenor Library. You should all have a copy of this. There's some copies on the back table. We've been advertising this on our social media page and at the Village Hall. There seems to be quite a bit of interest. You know, this is the first endeavor by our tree board to try and get some community involvement to understand, you know, the importance of what they're trying to accomplish. So I encourage everybody to attend. It's Thursday night at 7 o'clock down at the library. Reminder on the 28th that we have our road asset management plan discussion at 6:30. And following that, our master plan community engagement following at 7 o'clock. That's again going to be in the south room in the old WBRW studio where we had the original master plan kickoff.
28th of this month?
Yes, that's on the 28th. I wanted to thank the DPW and Tim and the crew for the quick turn on getting our roads taken care of. The snow emergency worked out well. We had the officers out there getting the cars removed off the street so that the fellows could do their job, and we appreciate how good of a job you guys did for us.
Sure.
As a reminder, it is the homeowner's responsibility within 24 hours of any snow event to clear the sidewalks. And I had a handful of complaints walk in today for areas that are not. And so I asked the officers to take inventory tomorrow, and they'll be sending out letters and issuing citations if necessary.
Yeah, just start with the citations, helps the revenue.
We have all these nice new sidewalks, and we really want to make it walk. I mean, I see so many people walking their dog. I'm one of them. You got to walk in the street because there's, you know, icy patches, and please just take a minute. If you need assistance with your sidewalk, there are resources to help you. You know, if you're an elderly citizen and you just can't do it, please reach out. We'll try and put you in touch with somebody that can take care of that for you. So, and lastly, I was hoping to have had on today's agenda our budget amendments. We've gone through 6 months of our fiscal year. You have in your email packets, and I believe you have printed copies of them, your monthly report, of revenue and expenditure report. Tim and I are still just sort of working through a few numbers. There were a few items that I noticed weren't addressed, and I just wasn't prepared to do it tonight. So bear with me one more month. We'll look at budget amendments, but you should be able to see on that revenue expenditure report the percentage of where we're at for this fiscal year. Again, Tim had to recreate starting from our budget. So there's a few things that were tweaked accounting practices that he's bringing with him that account for depreciation and the use in the line items for prior year fund balance, which with his professional acumen we shouldn't do. So, so things may look a little different next month, but I wanted to just note that we're working on that, and hopefully we'll have that on the agenda for next month. If you have any questions, again, we can meet, or you can come talk to Tim, you can talk to me. That's all.
I have a few things.
Okay, go ahead.
Open it up. First of all, I want to start by saying congratulations to Ella from our Romeo Middle School. She got to sing a national anthem at the Red Wings game the other day. Yes, so put a big spotlight on Romeo. Good job, Ella. Everyone said she did a great job. That was very heard her. One thing for the DDA, we have a Christmas subcommittee meeting coming up this Thursday at 7 o'clock at Main Street. This includes everybody. If you're a business owner, whether you have a business on the strip or anywhere in the village, any homeowners, anyone who has interest, we need help. Everyone wants to put the lights down there and make it look really great, but we need help doing this. So if you have to come late, 7:30, 8 o'clock, I'm sure we'll still be there. There's coffee, we're chatting, it will be great. What else? At the Masonic Lodge, this Saturday, there is an event happening at 8 o'clock. The doors are open at 7. It's supposed to be this really great violinist, Dixon Violin. And then lastly, the Romeo Theater Company, their musical is this week. So Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and an afternoon on Sunday. It's the Little Shop of Horrors, the musical. It is located at the old high school, which is now the 9th Grade Academy. Tickets are cheap. Go have a great date night and enjoy it.
Mentioning off of your, for Ella, Ryan Romano tried out for,
He's Got Talent or?
Mayor's Got Talent today downtown. So we wish Ryan Romano a lot of luck too. So we'll see how his audition went. Absolutely. Great. Anybody else? Otherwise, make a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
It is 8:25. All right, this meeting is concluded. Thank you, everybody.